Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 77th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with Co-Hosts Shannon B and Bryant W. Today's topic is Step 12. Would you please read Step 12 for us, Shannon, and share what this step means to you?
Sure. Step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So for me, having had that spiritual awakening in the steps means is that I no longer live the way that I used to, right? I'm guided by my higher power now rather than the restraint of drugs and alcohol that I was under for so long. And I don't wake up every single day being like, I need to drink. How am I going to drink? What's the day going to look like depending on alcohol? I wake up grateful to be sober and even more grateful to have the recovery that I do today. And I want to share that with other people. And it says in our literature, we can't keep it if we don't give it away, right? So my spiritual awakening leads me to a new way of thinking, but I still have a message, right, of depth and weight, meaning I live differently, but I can still relate to exactly what another alcoholic or addict has gone through, right? Our stories might be different, but the underlying feelings and that addiction is the same. And I can carry that message to somebody else and help them live a new way too, right? It's more leading with action and example rather than words. I can take somebody through the book, I can take them through the steps, and that's just such a gift. And I live a principled life. Each step has a principle, like we've spoke about throughout our podcast. So practicing these principles in all our affairs means I practice love, patience, tolerance, kindness, living the way that God would want me to in all areas of my life. I'm not warm and friendly to somebody new coming into a meeting and then I go home and treat my family poorly, right? Like I try to live consistently to the best of my ability, not without flaws.
I absolutely love that. Now, Mr. BW, aka Ice Storm, would you like to come on in on your Step 12?
Sure. Good to see you both. So the fundamental fact of this whole thing is that I had tried quite a few different ways of getting well prior to finding the solution. And whenever I really fully lean into the facts of what happened, I get very, very deeply moved at the fact that I had attended meetings, but there was a person that came into my life that did the Step 12 and guided me through a process that took me from being completely dependent and completely without choice in this horrible fact of my life. And then I found myself no longer requiring that as my solution in life. And if it hadn't been for that person, I would not have changed. And it was because of that person that whole process happened. So I have to pay a lot of homage and dedicate a lot of the well-being to the fact that this person did Step 12. Man, it always
That's it, mic
moved
drop.
me.
Oh.
No, it's just like think about that, because if we just took the solution and didn't give it back, it would end.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the coolest things I ever heard, and it was at quite a vulnerable time for me. I had some kind of like an unfortunate health situation and whatnot. So I was feeling really vulnerable, and I listened to a speaker tape, and this guy was talking about that, because there seems to be this weird confusion about why we keep going to meetings and why we keep being involved in this process after we no longer do this habitual pattern in our life. And that, I think, if you keep it that simple, having the ability to potentially help somebody else with the same problem, knowing how important it was for you, that just simplifies things and gives a real powerful meaning to the last step of the process. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, BW. You know what? Why you just inspired me with what you were saying, and I just thought of kind of a cool visualization for it. I always say that which we focus on becomes greater. That sign that was on the wall in options, Shannon. Kind of to your left, almost straight ahead to me most days. we're not breaking the chains of addiction. We're growing the chains of recovery. My circle's overlapping my sponsee's circle, and we're building the chains of recovery.
Yeah.
And, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, it's not a question mark. And it's not like a maybe. And it's not like doing some meetings and making coffee got you straight. It's as a result of these steps. It's doing the work with these steps that is our awakening and our path to reconnecting our conscious contact with our higher power. And, I just think anybody who's new out there who just happened to drop in on step 12, rewind and start at step 1, because these steps are there as a program of action and they're in a magical order. Like, it's a magical order to me. There's no like skipping around or making the steps like I'm going to do 1 and 6 and 4 and then why don't we do 7? Like, that's just not how I think. Like, it's unbelievably geniusly laid out in my mind, and in how to take you from a hopeless addict or alcoholic to a path of freedom, where you now become someone who can go out and help others. And I used to tutor from pretty much from grade 5 to third year university, and every time I taught somebody something, I had to know it well enough to iterate it, and to also potentially be able to iterate it from different angles to help somebody else understand. And a big part of us helping another addict is us having that skill with our fundamental understanding of this program and being able to look at it from different sides. And because quite often, for myself, it's shown me where the holes in my knowledge are when I try to explain it. And then sometimes with my sponsees, we're learning that part together, because I've decided that I need to relearn something I thought I knew. And that's okay, because, I think I didn't get ice skating my first time, I didn't get playing guitar my first time. And even this program takes practice, that's why I do it every single day. And practicing the principles in all our affairs. Shannon laid it out right. You can't be like, "Woo, love you, newcomer," and then go home and be like turd face to your partner or your family. Like, it really is like that. And it's like taking a look at where you're not doing that in your life. I have a really sort of stressful time sometimes with my work, and I'm like, whoa, I gotta be like pulling the principles in here, like love and tolerance, especially in the face of stress and anger and resentment from somebody else, because their emotions can't dictate my life, or I'm just out of control again, completely, And I'm going to leave that there. And I think Shannon's got a question for Mr. BW. So the ice storm, the other day you guys had, there was an ice storm in Ontario. And I did a podcast, and I put his name as Ice Storm. And so this old timer in the program, JJ, who's just a wonderful soul, he saw Ice Storm, and so he started referring to him like Ice, or do I call him Storm? Like that's Brian's name.
That was some of the best stuff I've ever seen.
Oh, that was hilarious, man. That was one of the funniest things ever. Anyway, I love you guys, and you're up, Shannon.
I like that. Storm. I'm going to go with that because you've really survived quite a few storms in your life.
Couple little downpours, yeah.
just a couple light sprinklings, hey?
Like, like a hurricane kind of level, 5.
Leave it to storm,
Yeah.
I love that.
Ask me anything.
That's right.
I love what you guys shared. I truly do. And B, I love what you said about from living a life of no choice, right? To now living a life where you can make that conscious choice every day, right? I really, really liked that. because it is a disease that takes over everything, right? Our whole entire mindset. And today, our mindset obviously looks a lot different. And I'm glad to be on this podcast with you guys. So, yeah, I want to kick it off and ask you about step 12 and carrying the message. Would you like to share a profound experience you had with working with a sponsee or how it affected you?
Yes, thank you for that question. Nothing moves me so fast as these facts. Like I think I think when it comes down to this whole thing, it's a matter of the heart, which is, I guess, like our center. And like the I'll just very quickly, before I mention my experience with a sponsee, again quickly acknowledge the gentleman that helped me. It like restored my faith in humans. Like when I recognized that this person was taking several hours out of their week, they had two children that were like under the age of 5, trying to work, coming out of their own like storm, and like still willing to meet me for hours, knowing that it was like a powerful aspect of their own well-being and like a necessary part of them being able to stay in the gratitude of what they found. So I recall when I was around, I basically finished a set of steps before I moved from Toronto to BC. And he was like, now you got to get a sponsee. And I was like, whoa, like I was really kind of like I didn't think I had that to offer. And I also didn't feel confident in that at that time. It all had happened so fast. I figured you needed to be like way down the road to be able to do that. And it did take a few minutes for me to actually end up creating one of those relationships. But the question you asked me was, I recently moved again. It's been 9 years. And I had not a lot, but a handful of people tell me they love me and like acknowledge how impactful the relationship was when I had sponsored these people. And you don't even really understand what's possible. I know we crave people finding the same solution we found, but when you really think about how that extends to their family, how mothers and fathers of people we're helping finally can have some peace of mind that their child might actually be okay. Maybe they're a parent and like their family come back together. You know, maybe like a husband and a wife have been able to find health again. Like this isn't just people no longer taking drugs or drinking alcohol. It like mends families. Like this is stuff that can go. So not only are we keeping the cycle going by contributing to lending a hand after one's been lent to us, but it can have a wonderful effect on the people around us as well. It's really amazing, you know. So that's my answer, is that I, obviously with humility, got to see the effect that lending a hand had on a few people's lives, and that to me was something that I never ever thought I'd have in my life. So, pretty special.
It's beautiful.
I love that. Can you repeat the question for me, please, Shannon?
I sure can. Having had the spiritual awakening and completed the steps, and you're working with others now, would you like to share a profound experience you had carrying the message to another sponsee?
Yeah. So, I just want to say one thing about what Brian was saying there. Like we were on that podcast with JJ on Tuesday, and like think about somebody like him with 36 years in the program. He's got great, 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 great sponsees. Like think
Yeah.
of the family tree of recovery. Like how many, like probably by the end of that train, there's like hundreds of people that have been affected, and it's just quite a beautiful thing to think about. Like every time you're working with someone, you're you're planting a seed that could not only save someone's life, but it could be a tree of fruit that are saving people's lives, like further down the line. And that just it's such a wonderful thing to, we just see so much news that's negative these days, and to just embrace that concept for 30 seconds, like while you were talking, it just felt really good in my heart to actually, be like, wow, what a cool and amazing thing that this program offers. And for me, my second sponsor started sponsoring people at 2.5 months into the program. He was like, he had read that the greatest immunity to drinking is the helping another addict. He's like, well, then if that's the greatest immunity, I got to be helping other people right now. And I thought that, like, because they certainly didn't say that in options. They were like, well, wait a year, wait a year before you date and wait a year before you sponsor, was kind of, word on the street. So I thought that was like a rule. And then when I got him, he's like, show me in the book where it says that. He says you start helping people as soon as you have a spiritual awakening. He's like, that's what I said. And like he knows what page, verse, everything. Like he's got the book memorized in in a never, you're never going to out argue him on a point of fact of literature anyway. And it's amazing though, because, it gives us a great basis for a lot of discussions. So, there was somebody that, needed some help, and I started working with them. And what it was for me was, I remember having like a profound, I call them epiphanies. And I had one this week that I want to discuss with you guys in a bit because I think it'll be really fun. But I'm not going to get into that one now because then I'll get sidetracked forever. They call me Sidetracked Spiritual Starcic. But anyway, I was sitting on the couch and we were kind of doing our session and we were reading. And, I had come in with this idea that was new to me. And so I knew that I had to really kind of try to pull my concepts together because it had just kind of come to me that day. And then I wanted to convey this to this person because I saw that that same, concept would help them out. And, we kind of sat there for about an hour, just kind of going back and forth on this topic. And it was like, there was this aha moment for him where it was like almost like a little bit of today's stress melted away. His eyes brightened a little bit. And it was kind of like almost like the it's going to be okay feeling was kind of coming into what he was talking about. And it was to be able to share, like, not only share some knowledge, but actually share part of the awakening. That was like, it was like a mystical conveyance. It was like, here, I've got this little bundle of magic and I'm pulling it out of my heart because it's the most precious thing I have today. And then it's like, poof, and they get a little bit of that inside their heart. And I was like, I left it remember the end of that day. And I thought to myself, you know what? I did the best I could today. And today it felt good enough.
Right on.
Yeah. And what about you, Miss Shannon B?
It's beautiful, you guys. I feel like truly the sponsees that I need are led in my path. And I say that because always will be something that's shared with me that I went through a similar situation, or it's a good reminder that I need, right, of where I was. And that's so beautiful. Like I can go into working with a sponsee like dead tired, like it's been a long day, work, all the
Yeah.
responsibilities. And I can be driving there going, oh, I'm so tired. Like, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to give. And then I leave there and I'm on fire. Like I'm energized. It's like a cell
That's
phone that's dead and you plug it in, right? And you're like, beams back, gives you some power. So I really love that. I love seeing the lights come on, where you get that moment with someone where they really can start to see a solution, see a way out of this. They feel heard for the first time, right? Or they're like, wow, I've never shared that with anyone. Like, that's a big honor, right? For somebody to have that kind of trust and faith in me and vice versa. And I heal myself too whenever I'm helping someone else. And that's huge. So there's been so many moments over the years that I've been in the program that I work with sponsees and thought, oh my gosh, like this is the goods, right? Like it just can't get any better than this. And yeah, to see, especially like working with women, to see women like begin to love themselves and
Mm.
see worth in themselves and realize that what's defied them doesn't define them, and not to be stuck in trauma bonds or, stuck in thinking that I have to use there's no other way out of this than to look at this pain and be able to do that, or to reach out to me and be like, "Oh, I'm having this amazing day," or "I had this aha moment," right? It's so cool. And same with working with my sponsor. This time around, I chose a sponsor that truly had everything that I wanted, right? Like it looked a little bit different than my first time in recovery. So I've had great sponsors and usually somebody who struggles with the same things that I do. But what this one is, like, she has a beautiful family, a long successful marriage, is a very peaceful person, and I wanted a lot of that, right? And through working with each other, it was ironic how many similarities we have. Like as women, we have so many similarities, right? And the same patterns and kind of the same Achilles heel or defects of character in some ways. So
Mm.
just to like learn how she's dealt with those things, and to hear somebody be so honest and just like put into words the things that you're thinking in your head, it's so cool. Like you just feel this amazing connection, and it's beautiful to form healthy relationships with other females. And that's what this program does for me in a sponsee thing. And with the other women that, I have as confidants and people that I can reach out to, on a day-to-day basis. It's just so beautiful. And like Brian said, like families are mended and stuff, but to see somebody like come in just so beaten and so broken and so timid and like
Wow.
afraid
Mhm.
to like coming in like with this light shined on them, or you know not tolerating things that they used to, demanding
Yeah.
more in life, like that is so so cool. And I'm thrilled to be a part of it. It's an honor to me. Like you were said earlier, somebody did this for us, and to be able to carry that on so that we can continue this chain of recovery. Like, come on. It's the shit right
It's so
there.
cool.
It certainly is. And how many times have you, either worked with your sponsor or sponsee and realized like you guys both share such identical struggles,
Yeah.
where it opens the opportunity to actually have a real conversation with somebody like vulnerably, like that is going through exactly what you're going through. Like some of my sponsees, I'm just like, we're from such different walks of life, but we have the exact defects of each other,
And
and
the laughs we get to share
yeah,
sometimes too, like when I'm in a 5 and it's heavy, right? But we get to like, okay, I want you to just like in harm's done especially, right? And we look at sex conduct and stuff, and I'm like, I want you to just get it out, And like we're reviewing this page, and then I'm like, okay, now we're gonna look at your part, and it's like equally as long, if not a little bit longer. And it's like, so you can kind of see where you contributed to this, right? And it like
Oh,
softens the
Lord.
mood a bit. And then it's like, okay, now are you really going to do something about it or not? Right? Is the $1 million question. But it's
Well
good to
said.
have those laughs sometimes. And I have a great girlfriend now who I actually sponsored years ago. And we still laugh so hard about writing down like what she was looking for in a healthy relationship, right? And just like that whole process and stuff, and just how like we just had so many laughs around behind it. And she's like, man, like when I think back of like what I thought was like a priority in somebody compared to like what was really just a want.
yeah.
It gives you like it's nice to have those softer moments too in really heavier times to laugh. And even like when I share some of my stories, I'm like, oh, believe me, like I know what it was like when I first came in too. And when I realized like this isn't a dating service, like everybody's as sick as you. Tried to do their no, 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 no. But I remember, like, I think I would have shared it before, like the first AA meeting I ever went to. I
Oh,
come
man.
in and I'm like judging right away, like I just want to find something or hear something that makes me check that one box that's like not an alcoholic or not as bad as you. And
Sure.
it was everything that was shared was like, hit me, hit me, hit me. And I was crying, right? And then I get up to leave, and there's like all these boys, it sounds like they're so young, but I was younger then, but and all these younger guys and standing right like at that exit, like to introduce themselves to me. And I was like, suddenly, my tears dried. I adjusted myself. And then there was an old timer, and he's like, No, 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 no.
Yeah,
Women
yeah.
with women, men with men.
Oh, yeah.
These are the same drunks that hit on you in a bar. The only difference is they're in a meeting. It's like, okay. And then like I understood, but it was like in that flash second, my, sick thinking is like, oh, well, here's where all the good men have been hiding out.
That's awesome.
Yes. I share that story with my sponsees sometimes because they're like, oh, well, I'm like, listen, don't make the mistake.
Slow it down.
Slow it down. You're here to get better. And then,
Yeah.
of course, when I went to my first round of the other options and I was told, you have nothing to offer. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? And
Let that ego
and the
ride.
counselor was like, you've been riding on your looks your whole life, and that's why you're exactly where you are today. And I was
Oh,
like,
Lord.
okay, well, we better buckle down here, because I'm going to get hit with some hard truths. But she was
Wow.
right. I was broken, sick, and couldn't stay straight. You know what I mean? What business would I have had meeting anyone, right? Like, because I've been attracting the same sick, broken people.
Mhm.
And I needed that. Like, so when I have these talks with my SOTCs and one struggling in the same areas, right? They look at me like that, but I'm like, come on, let's break it down really right now. Do you want to keep repeating the same patterns? And it's the truth. But yeah, it's good to have some fun and have some laughs when things are heavy.
Fun covery.
Yeah. And Lord knows my ego's been beat to shit in rehab and in real life.
But that's the best part. Yeah. For the first time in your life, you can hear these things because you're not just in it, like for someone to tell you that and you'd be like, I think you might be right. It's like, oh,
For somebody to say to me, like, cut the shit, you're riding on your looks and it's about to fucking run out. Like, I was like,
Whoa, whoa. You don't know me.
okay. I'll take it one step further, Bryant. She would make me go up to my room and put my hair up and wash my face before every co-ed meeting so that I didn't go in with a mask of makeup.
that's right. Party's over, Shannon.
Party's over, Shannon.
Last call for
Yeah.
for the bullshit.
Last call for the bullshit yet. No, we're
But
not
I
taking
needed
the
it.
bar
But
shut
I
down
needed
for
it. But
bullshit.
it's just like I'm sure you guys, when you work with men, right? You're telling them like you don't get 15 minutes of sobriety and suddenly think like you're the big man on campus.
No.
Yeah, that's the classic angst and relapse is that codependency immediately on the opposite sex.
And then that person's your higher power, and then someone
Yep.
relapses, and then we're right back to the races, right? So,
Yeah.
okay, proceed. Questions.
Okay, Brian, you ask me a question, BW, or IC Storm.
Oh, I see, Storm. Okay. Okay, so what was it about another person having the same problem as you that helped give you trust and confidence in the solution they were offering? Like, what was it about the dynamic of knowing this person genuinely suffered from the same? Like, what was the magic that came from that?
Well, okay, I've always said it's kind of like I would have a hard time working with a counselor who was never an addict. It's that, them being better is a little bit of actual real life visual proof that
Yeah.
something worked. Like, just as an example for options, like either Shirley lied about being a drug addict and Susie lied about being an alcoholic, or like we could see proof of people with pretty fucking amazing lives, like straight. And and the same went for my sponsor, both of them. Like neither of them, like, I mean, man, you would have to be the best writer in the world to write some of the stories that were shared with me, for me to feel doubt. And I just didn't feel like either one of them was lying to me. There's a certain thing where you start sharing war stories with people, and your bullshit meter starts going off, like that's just too outlandish and blah blah blah.
Okay.
But the craziest stories from a sponsor, like they're almost impossible to be that creative. Like that's why people like reality TV, is that the weird, the craziest shit happens in real life
Mhm.
because it's just such an insane sequence of events. So, you know, I, I didn't really feel a distrust for either of the sponsors I've had, but knowing that they had struggled, at least, equally, just parallel in some ways as much as me, it really just made me think, okay, shut up and listen. Like, I came in pretty freaking open-minded and totally willing. Like, I didn't care what it was you were going to tell me. If it was working for you, I was going to try it, because I was just like, that gift of desperation was like high, like it was like putting me in the desert for 4 days and I'm pretty much dead. And then you've got a bowl of water. And it's like, yeah, I don't care what that water tasted like. I would have had a gulp. Yeah. I think I'm going to leave that there.
Yeah, nice.
Shannon. Oh, Ben, you want to ask her again?
Yeah, I was sort of touching on like that the fact of, like, they say one alcoholic to another, one addict to another. Like, what was it about sitting with someone who had the same problem as you that gave you the trust and confidence to accept the solution they were offering? And yeah.
Sure. A big thing is seeing how they live their life, right? Like, one that I've worked with as a sponsor, I've seen how they are in the rooms and I've seen how they are out of the rooms, and it
Right.
aligns. So
Right.
right there, I know they have integrity, right? The trust is because from the beginning, they've said something to me, or we formed this connection where I know they're the real deal, right?
Yeah.
Like, my sponsor now, when I had started in a new group, she came up to me and introduced herself and said, "This is a safe room for you to be in. We all look after each other. You don't have to worry about the men in here. They're principled, they're full of integrity, and the women got your back." Right?
Nice.
So just hearing something like that made me feel like I could trust her. And then when I met with her the first time and we talked, she really listened and she was very kind, and she shared a lot, right? With, like, this is what it's going to look like for me with you in a sponsor-sponsee relationship. And we developed whether or not that would be a good fit in the beginning. So that
Nice.
right there shows me it's somebody who um, is going to be profoundly honest with me, and I can trust people who are honest.
Yes.
So that right there, right? And with my sponsees too, like, I let them know from the beginning, like, I am here to take you through the steps, and I can share with you my experience, strength, and hope based on what I have experienced throughout recovery and throughout addiction, right? I'm not here to be your financial advisor. I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not a career counselor. I'm not any of these things. That doesn't mean you can't come to me with them, but I'm never going to tell you what to do. I may strongly suggest something for if I think that it's going to harm you or impact your recovery, but
Yeah.
I'm not here to tell you to go leave your boyfriend, to quit your job, to do all of these things, right? Because that's where, like I always say, you can tell an addict anything, but you can't tell them much, right? Because as soon as you start telling somebody what to do, they'll back
Yeah.
down, right? And they're like, I don't want this. It's a dictate. It feels like a dictatorship. So when
Sure.
you're saying, based on my experience, this is what happened, or, hey, you know what? Let's take a step back here and look at this as a whole and how this is impacting you.
Yeah.
I
People
love that.
trust you that way, right? It's all about how you deliver your energy, that you're consistent too, right? You keep your word,
Yeah.
is how I build trust, and how they build trust with me too. I've made mistakes, you know what I mean? Like, I've put trust in people in this program I shouldn't have. And I've learned that
Sure.
pretty quickly. But it's because I haven't really taken the time to get to know them. I didn't see that their actions match their words, and
It's
vice versa.
better to have an open heart than walk around with a closed heart, though.
It is.
Like,
And
if
if
you
that
let
means
the
I get
asshole
hurt
shut you
more,
down, if you let the asshole shut you down, then don't you become an asshole? Yeah.
the fact that I am as trusting as I am, trusting in all after some of the things I've gone through in life, shows that that's my beautiful heart and soul on the
Yeah.
inside. And I don't want to change that any.
No.
Anyways, I'm just a little bit more like less of an open book all the time, you know. But yeah, we've all gone through similarities. Like you ask also with women, sometimes it can be trickier, you guys, because women are sometimes in crowds or around people that are told to compete with each other rather than to be aligned with each other, right? So when I'm coming from a place of like, hey, I genuinely care. I'm doing this because I want to see you get better. Also, I want to stay sober myself, right? Like that's what it is. And I'm going to meet you where you're at. And having boundaries is huge on both sides too, right? Because I've not done that before. And then it's just, it's turned into well, relapsing and then like pouring everything out onto me. And it's like, hey, that's not what my role is. I can't fix you, but I can be here when you're ready for help.
Amazing. BW, you got an answer to your question?
Yeah, I'm like having to look at it again here.
I bet ya.
Yeah, so it was really neat. I had the best time with this situation because I was really blessed how it came into my life. Showed up, met someone, they introduced me to someone. The process began with one simple question. The fellow asked me, "Do you want what I have?" And I didn't know what he meant. Like I had no idea what he meant, but I was looking at a gentleman that visually, like Shannon said, like I was inspired. Like I saw that this person had a change that was inspiring to me. I was very much at the point where I was like, I definitely want what you have. I wanted sobriety. Like I was so done with feeling that way, And when this guy started sharing his story with me, I was like, what? Like I was like, because he presented well, and he was well at that point. But when he started telling me about some of the places he had been and some of the things that had happened, I was like, oh my God. And again, that's where my trust developed. It was about a combination of factors like this. When he would always be there for me, when I started seeing the wisdom and the benefit of having taken some of these steps and recommendations and suggestions, like let's just be honest, it's gnarly. Like it's a wild thing. Like you show up in these weird places with a group of people you don't know. Next thing you know, some gal that like you never would have met or ever talked to starts telling you something or sharing a story, and you're just like, oh my God, like the most honest, beautiful thing, and you have this deep, profound appreciation for the uniqueness of everybody, but sharing in this shared problem. Like I just get like very, very it puts me in a really amazing place of gratitude if I'm being honest about how and why I ended up there. You know what I mean? That whole idea of looking around and seeing how different everyone is, and like maybe I can like convince myself that I can escape this horrible fact of my life and not have to go through this process like all these other people. But then you hear people sharing and it's honest. And anyway, so that whole process of trusting this specific man, seeing how like kind of he was in some deep shit and he figured out how to get out of it, and he was so committed to his sponsor. Like I was so to the point where it was intimidating. Like I was like, this is too much. I knew I wanted to like not do this anymore, but this was too much. And thank God he gently kind of like reeled me back in a few times, because I found it very overwhelming at first. Like I just thought, I'm willing to do this and that, but like this is getting a little carried away. But it ended up working out. And so, yeah, pretty much those factors: the honesty, the dedication, and the example. Like the example that this person showed me was very motivating.
I love that. Well said,
Yeah.
BW. I'm really just want to stop for a second and give some gratitude for both of you being here. I really knew that this was going to be a great episode together, and I feel it already is. And I want to say thank you for both of you being open-minded to my suggestion yesterday. Okay, I've got
Thank
a
you.
question for you, Shannon. When a man or a woman has a spiritual awakening, the most important meaning of it is that he or she now has become able to do, feel, and believe that which he or she could not do before on his or her unaided strength or resources alone. Was this your experience? Please share.
Ooh, okay. Yes. Um, because I'm fully reliant on a higher power today, right? So life looks a lot different than when I was fully reliant on myself. So yeah, I think can you just read that again so I make sure
Yeah,
it's
I'd love to read it again. The sound of my own voice is mellifluous to me. Okay, when a man or woman has a spiritual awakening, the most important meaning of it is that he or she has now become able to do, feel, and believe that which he or she could not do before on his or her own unaided strength and resources alone. Was this your experience? Please share.
Yes. So in addiction, I suffered severe anxiety and depression and like devastating lows where I just didn't think it was ever going to get any better. And even trying really hard in those times to like pray, because I've always had like a relationship with God, it just looks quite different today. I still couldn't stop my thoughts, right? That like it's like a tape player over and over and over again, and it just sucks you down so much. And the only relief I would have from that is somehow getting through it, and then I'd feel a little bit more hopeful for a minute or so, and then I would say, "Better to have a drink," like, and then this cycle would go over and over again. I was dependent completely on that, on alcohol to shape how I felt about everything. And when I wasn't drinking, like, life was just so overwhelming. And today, I have those overwhelming moments. I do have moments where I feel anxious or a little bit sad, but I can ask myself specific questions so that I can help regulate that, right? Like, okay, is it that I am just tired? Did I not eat enough today? Have I like isolated myself a little bit too long, right? Because that like plays a big part on me too. Like when I start to feel down, I don't want to be around anyone, but I need to do the opposite of that, right? Am I getting to meetings? Like, what's my recovery looking like? Am I meditating? Like, I ask myself these things. And if I'm not, then I know the answer, right? And I can course correct a little bit so I don't have to sit in that anymore. Life doesn't feel so overwhelming. And I bring God into everything that I do. And I trust that the outcome's going to be as it's supposed to be and that I can get through that, right? I don't operate so much in fear. I still have those times, like it still comes up. Those are all normal feelings, but they don't become my new reality anymore. And that's from that spiritual awakening, right? And two, I have people I can lean on. Like I don't try to fight sickness with sickness anymore. If I don't know something or I can't get out of my headspace, I reach out. I also don't push it to those limits anymore. Like I can identify behaviors in myself that even though it's a ways before I would take a drink, it's edging me down that path. And I'm like, nope, can't do it. Gotta change, gotta do something else. And subconsciously, it's self-sabotage too, right? Like I know something is harming my mental health, but I like keep doing it. So I don't do that anymore. Like I love myself. I'm learning. But I can take care of myself better. And I just have a different approach to things too. I try to stay a lot in gratitude. So why do I have to do this? I get to do this,
Yeah.
right?
Nice.
Ugh, this is daunting. Like instead, I'm like, what am I going to bring into this situation to make it more appealing? Oh, got a lot of computer work to do. Procrastination normally, right? No, I'm going to go make myself a latte. I'm going to go like move my computer near sunlight and how great I get to do this and I can listen to this podcast or I can listen to this and I don't have to be out driving around in the snowstorm. Isn't that a win? Like trying to look at things from a more positive standpoint. And my relationships have improved because I'm not trying to drive my points home anymore. I'm not trying to change people. I'm more loving, tolerant, and accepting.
I love
Basically, you
that.
guys, I am a modern day Mother Teresa, if you haven't picked that up.
Okay, MT, we got it here.
Just wanted to make sure y'all were listening, okay? That you didn't think that like I
But
didn't have
extra
any
human,
ego anymore.
I like
Zero.
extra humble, right?
Extra humble, extra human.
Milan, I told you, humility is for ugly people.
Woo, that's a sizzler.
If you
Look
needed a zinger for today, you guys, I just gave it to you, okay?
Okay. Yeah, he's got it. BW loves it. I mean, I
So
see
obviously
Stormy.
nobody on here needs to be humble, okay? Because this is a real good looking cat for today.
There we go.
Did that
Wow, you
answer your
guys are
question?
definitely a couple beauties. Are you ready, BW, for the
This
question
is my
again?
favorite podcast so far.
I know it. I knew you were going to love other guests.
It's cool.
Okay. When a man or woman has a spiritual awakening, the most important meaning of it is that he or she has now become able to do, feel, and believe that which he or she could not do before on his or her unaided strength and resources alone. Was this your experience, Mr. I.C. Storm? Please share.
You're the best, man.
I
I'm
love you
gonna
guys.
go a little. I'm just gonna throw down just a minute of Philo Sophia. Like the simple fact of admitting powerlessness was so real for me. I saw the I saw the facts of the matter very, very quickly that it wasn't just the drinking for myself. It was like, other things as well. And so I became aware that whatever I called me or my concept of myself up until that moment was no longer true. And so if that's true, that means that I can't take credit for what happens after this because I'm admitting defeat. So if I'm admitting defeat, then I can't take credit for the solution, which means that hopefully, and of course, we all admit that we waver back and forth. Sometimes we take our will back. Fear comes in stronger. It's very normal to want to like present well and have people reflect back to you our value and maybe even be recognized for some of our strengths from time to time. But when it comes to recovery and sobriety, like humility is so critical that I think that the more that you can extend that into other areas of your life, the better off you will be. If you only admit this powerlessness about the substance factor, I think you'll be missing the actual gift of what it's truly trying to show. And that's that limitation of like how much we can influence and impact, like the world around us. And again, there's always opportunity to have a positive impact and lessen the negative impact. But there really is a limit. And I think that um, that's what came to mind with the question. It's uh, sorry, it's just like the whole thing with the higher power. It goes back to also like the step 12. It's I think one of the greatest things you can witness in another person if you're helping them is when they become open-minded at the very least, if not start talking, reflecting back to you what they're starting to discover about a concept or a reality or experiential higher power, because then okay, this person actually has a chance. Does that make sense? Instead of it being like, I'll meet you in this park and like you can be that guiding system for them for as long as it takes. But when I work with someone and I notice that they start seeing things differently and they're appreciating the world around them a little differently and they see the nature and they're starting to like, like live in less fear and not wanting to control everything. And then they're finding moments of gratitude. Like these are all ingredients of finding that relationship with the higher power, in my opinion. And like, so when I see somebody catching that, I know that now, okay, it's actually maybe working, And the same thing happened for me. And that's, again, it's like that vulnerability mixed with understanding your right size self-importance and the willingness. Like they're all kind of meshed together to allow us to be open-minded, I guess, and move forward. And the faith, it's that thing. It's that whole thing. Like I was terrified. Like even going to I went to like a Tuesday meeting and the librarian at the meeting sent me to some other fellow who was going to take me to this Thursday thing. And like, I'm like, this is wild. Like I'm getting on the subway and going to places I've never been, meeting people I've never met, and like just connecting these little dots. And somehow it brought me to where had to go. But like, it was very scary having lived with my own, like basically I only did ever what I wanted to do before that, whether it was in fear or self-centeredness. It was like the first time in my life where I truly was like giving up and just being like, I'm just going to do what I'm told to do. And it was kind of neat.
I love that. Yeah, I would say ditto on the first time that I actually gave up and did what I was told to do. I never really thought about that, but it was definitely that same thing for me. So I'm going to read the question one more time because even though it's my question, I'm good at forgetting. Absent-minded addict here. When a man or woman has a spiritual awakening, the most important meaning of it is that he or she now has become able to do, feel, and believe that which he or she could not do before on his or her unaided strength and resources alone. Well, that definitely was my experience. I love, Shannon, how, you hit on the anxiety. My last year and a half was so like increasingly stressful as my life became more unmanageable and as I became more powerless. Like I literally feel like, I might have had the only kind of panic attack sort of thing in my life about 6 months before my heart stopped and I came into the program. And, and I remember thinking like, I'm just broken now. Like my confidence in being able to be straight, cope with life, like it was just shattering at a rapid rate in the end there. And like they call it a progressive disease, and that last couple years was me coming out of having successfully taken 20 months off white knuckling. Like if anything, like if it wasn't a progressive disease, I should have been at my strongest point since I was 14, because that was the longest I was straight since I was 14. And it was not. It was as soon as I picked back up into action, I was really going down the hole fast. And, so I could not stop using. I could not find joy and serenity. I could not live a day honestly. I could not live without guilt and shame. These are all things that I've found inside this program. Like that, when it says, be able to do, feel, and believe. I never had a guilt-free day in my whole life until the day I did my step 5. Not in my whole life. Like the second I learned about society, boom, I was dropped into Catholicism, and I was just like fucking the breaker of the 10 Commandments. I was like, by the time I was 8, I did every one except for kill someone. And I was just like, man, like there was no feeling but shame there. Like, no wonder that I was like running to substance to numb that, because I didn't like where I was coming when I'd come home. In moments, and being by myself, being by myself had to have noise, and a big part of that noise, even before like my addiction, was escaping and reading. It was removing myself from here. Like reading is kind of like getting drunk. You can go off somewhere else and be someone else for a little while, and you don't have to worry about what's going on inside you if you can read fast enough. If you can read fast enough, you can be somewhere else for a little while. And and it's kind of a little bit like getting wasted. It's like getting wasted educationally. But I never thought that there would be a reliance on without, or like that act, like surrender is kind of the primary focus of my existence right now because it just keeps coming up everywhere. And like when you were saying, Bryant, about the powerlessness and unmanageability, like that first full acceptance of that, or admittance of that, even if you can't accept it. But by the time I admitted it, I was ready to accept it. Like I was there, because they're not the same thing. Somebody kind of stood up in a meeting that I was at a few months ago, and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, everybody! Admitting and accepting aren't the same thing."
True.
And a lot of people can admit it, but not be okay with it or accept it. And I feel like though for me it was just such a nut cruncher. Like it was like bang, here we go. Like you getting both at the same time, and it was like, okay, this is where I am, and this is what I am. Like it all was a kind of one big sigh of relief because when I saw, like, immediately felt relief upon my surrender, like that immediate relief was such a profound awakening for me
Yeah.
because it was just like, holy shit. Like I have missed the boat the whole way along, and there is a whole bunch of something that I don't know about that can be a way better life. It
Yeah,
really
that's right.
was.
Yeah.
Like it was just such an like such a blow to my picture of existence.
Yeah.
Like here, like, oh, do 51-year-old Milan thinks he's got a pretty firm grasp on the universe. Then it's like, universe ain't nothing like you thought. Your interactions are nothing like you thought, and who you can be is nothing like you could ever consider. And I'm just like, okay, so I don't know nothing. Can you change my diapers, Brian? You know, and
That's how it works. It's wild.
yeah, it really was. And so I'm going to leave that one there. And Shannon, do you got another question to ask Bryant? Or should I say Mr. Icy Storm, Miss MT?
This is awesome. Yes. So in step 12, it talks about practicing these principles in all of our affairs. How do you feel that that's applied to your daily life?
Um, yeah, great question. Uh, if I'm doing the steps, it will splash into other aspects of my life. However, being literally conscientious of that when the defects flare up and or remind you that they haven't gone, um, are you projecting that onto the people around you? Are you justifying your behavior due to their behavior, or are you being responsible? The two things that have come through really strongly, and again, I do probably present as, like I say, more idealistic kind of concepts than like the actual facts of how I like interact with these things on a daily basis. So definitely not scoring. What am I trying to say? I have a lot of work to do, but the the difference between before and now, responsibility and discipline, and those are two things that I was not doing well prior. Um, I think Milan kind of acknowledging like going back to infancy and learning to walk again, or you even went back to diaper. Um, I had a good friend whose mom had started this journey before she, I got involved in it, and she knew that I was one of these people, but she was very gentle with me, and she said, "There's a gift waiting for you when you're ready." And I recall her also telling me, and she was in her 50s at this point, um, that she was starting from scratch, learning to walk again. Like she told me, like, I'm like a 5 year old, and I remember just being like, oh my gosh, but like it was a beautiful thing, and she was also helping other people. So I'm like, this woman is admitting that she's starting from scratch, basically, with her learning about what life maybe could be like rather than what we thought it would be like, and the lack there of it actually going that way. And I now know what she was talking about. Whereas before, I didn't really understand what she was talking about. But there was a gift waiting, and you do sort of have to go back to basics and restructure what it means to be a healthy person, and what success actually is, and what self esteem actually is derived from. Like I again, mistakes are made, but like personal integrity is way more powerful than any money in my bank account. It protects me from so many things. Like if I do the right thing, I get like an actual, I get like a download of love instead of a vibration of shame. And then I have to backtrack. I have to look back. I have to look at yesterday. If I do today well, I don't have to look back. I can reflect, but like, do you know what I mean? Like when we break the rules, and I think the rules are really, really good rules. Before I was like, this isn't fun, like I should be allowed to do this, or how come there's a consequence for that? I think that the way that things are structured in the human soul, and how we kind of have to like actually walk out our own decisions and be responsible for that is quite amazing. I really can't say much more about that. But yeah, for me, the main difference is personal responsibility and then discipline. And those two things allow me to bring the principles into those other parts of my life. I think, yeah.
Love that.
Thank you.
That was beautifully put, brother. Can I get the question again? Because the absent-mindedness is still here.
Of course. It helps us to practice these principles in all of our affairs. So how do you feel that you've practiced the AA principles in all your affairs? How does that carry over?
Well, first of all, I think it's, I'm so grateful it says practice these principles instead of execute perfectly like a robot these principles, because I certainly feel, that sometimes I'm, one step forward, one step back. Sometimes I'm 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes I'm like 20 steps forward and I'm like, shit, man, I got to go 60 back because I just missed the point here. So I'm going to tell my little story from this week. This is Milan's epiphany moment. Bing. Okay, everybody, I was driving along a couple nights ago. In fact, it was probably close to 60 hours ago, if we want to go back in time. And I'm sitting there and my brain is dissecting the Serenity Prayer. And I know for a bunch of you guys, you're going to be like, oh, I got that right off the bat. But, okay, my whole life, or my whole time in recovery, looking at that prayer, right? I was wanting acceptance and thought acceptance would bring me serenity, and just that line. This is all about that line. And it's not the case. The case is that I need to get myself into serenity and then I will have acceptance. It's the opposite way around. It's like I'm not looking for like surrender and acceptance and compassion and tolerance from outside of me. I have to create the serene vessel, and those principles will flow from me freely. And so for me, I felt like I've really had a bunch of things backwards in my own philosophy. And now you guys are laughing, and I feel like you guys are like, what? I missed the boat? What's going on? What's going on?
I was just envisioning how you created the serene vessel.
The serene vessel.
Yeah.
The serene vessel. We love it. We're never laughing at you. We're laughing because it's just,
Okay.
I love how you get going on a story.
Well, it's that like, so.
You're right.
But you're right.
And the thing is that for me, I feel so grateful to have had this realization now, because now it's like I can move forward on what I believe to be the state of being that I try to get myself in. Like, how do I get serenity? I sleep right, I eat right, I exercise right, I live principled, I meditate, I pray, like all these, and for me it involves music too, but it's just like, when I'm having a tougher day now, I don't need to try to not be angry. I need to try to rectify my state of being.
Mm.
And it's a different quest. And I feel like it's really going to change my life to try to like, I was talking with my sponsor about it and he was stoked. Like John was just amazing. He was just like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "And it's like this." And he like we talked about it for half our session and but like and he's a wonderful guy to philosophize about something like this and he's and for him what he's been trying to do is, not trying to not trying to same thing, like not trying to work on these shortcomings or defects. He said, when I find myself, the closer I get myself to God, like he calls his God, and he's like, the closer I get myself to God, the better my life is with all those things. And so like his thing is about trying to get it like so when he's having conflict or dissension in his brain or having a hard day, he's like, where am I? How far am I from God right now? And he tries to get himself closer to God in his own manner. So anyway, for me, that was a really big deal. Like I feel like, just like I've, was talking about surrender recently. So anyway, I need the question again, but I just wanted to say that thing because I wanted you guys to, for me to say it, but then also, if you guys want to comment right now on that, I just wanted to make sure that we addressed it before the show was getting anywhere near over.
You're the best.
Shannon, would you be your comment on what I was just talking about?
I'm going to save it till I answer my question and I'm going to give it
Okay.
back to you. How do you feel the principles are carried over into all areas of your life?
Okay, so it is definitely practicing the principles in all my affairs, like I was saying,
Yes.
it is kind of like, become my life goal to implement this principled action into more of my life, like all the time. And obviously, I am far from perfect, right? But, I am becoming more willing as I get further into my program. Like it's there. Like there's just times where it's like, man, for sure I was not ready to give up certain things a year ago. That now I'm like, I can see that I have to get rid of that. And I might not have gotten rid of very much of it, but at least now I'm like, that's not healthy. That's got to go eventually. And however I got to do this, I've got to embark on that journey for that. And so, one of the things that, like that I started noticing was that I started doing a lot of service in the program. And then I realized, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like I got 3 old people here at my place. They need some shit done for them. Like service needs to start at home. Like it's exactly like what Shannon said about being nice to a newcomer at a meeting and going home and being a jerk. But it's like being helpful to somebody who, is, barely needing help or peripherally needing help, but like some old person who you love being neglected right inside your own sphere, or not being neglected, but just not having the things done for it that is truly the acts of service that make their life better, like, um, and so service is one of the ways that I'm definitely trying to make sure that it's a rounded picture in my life, inside the program, outside of the program, you know, um, maybe to my detriment. Uh, I'm definitely, I'm going on market evaluations with people and the market is really struggling in my area, but I am absolutely not sugarcoating anything for anybody. And whether that's losing me listings or not, I just don't care at this point because I state to them quite clearly, I'm like, I am living really principled and I am not going to lie to you, even if it means you wanting to believe a liar right now. I said, I'm
Sure.
fine with that, and that's really hard to do when you're struggling financially. But it's like it's the only way I can do it and stay in this job, you
My
know.
friend.
And
Powerful thing.
yeah, and then having just really, trying to increase my conscious contact, to try to make myself more present. Presence is my serenity. Just saying. And that's it for me.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I like what you guys both had to say, and I love when you share because then it like jogs something in me too, right? Like, oh yes, this is something to work on, or that is something that, has changed for me. Um, yeah, practicing the principles in all my affairs
Oh,
to the best of my ability. Correct? Like that's all I can do. I like what you said, Milan, like that's the only way I can do this job is if I stay in my integrity in this. And God rewards that, right? Like higher power, however you want to say, but I say God rewards that because you are being honest and truthful and you're caring more about the clients than you are about making money in that situation, right? And that's how you build trust and lasting relationships with people. Even if you're telling them something they don't necessarily want to hear, you're telling what they need to be hearing. And that that's remarkable. So, being somebody who's in sales themselves, I think that's amazing. And I pride myself in doing the same, right? Um, yeah, gosh, it's just so interesting when you look back at like how you lived your life till I look back how I live my life to how I do now. My whole philosophy around success looks completely different. And that was
yeah.
a big eye opener for me this time going into the program and doing the steps is for me, it was pretty much all in one bucket, right? Financial, career, period. And as long as like I had those things together and I relatively looked like I was keeping it together, then no one will question how bad it was on the inside, right? It's like a mess all the time, but as long as you're showing up, like I literally just said this to a girlfriend the other day. I'm
Makes
like,
sense though.
I don't even know why I bothered like getting so ready and like so dolled up or whatever for these nights to go out, knowing where they were going to end up. Like I might as well have just not showered and just been in sweats because like it was going from, you know what I mean? Like, like who are you kidding? You know what I mean? Like you're falling down. Doesn't matter where you're wearing, falling down. Like you're a mess. You're a slop show. Like, but it was all about image, right? And now I don't define success based on um my career, like things that I choose to do to earn money, right? Like whether that be in my studio or in my full-time job, how I am with people, the relationships that I have, the partner that I am, the daughter that I am, the sister that I am, the friend that I am, like that matters, right? And that I'm living a balanced, healthy life is what is successful to me, right? It's not packing so much into a day and showing up in situations, running late, and then being like, oh, I'm just like, work is crazy. Like, it's just when I look back at the things that I did, I kind of cringe because I'm like, not kind of, I cringe because it's like, your life's not much more like more important than somebody else's. And having taken off the amount of time that I did, right, before going back to work, really helped me realize that like I didn't need to do 20 things in a day. Some days I
Yeah.
just did a couple and that was good enough, right? And that my recovery, like how is my recovery? Is it good? Because that's success to me, right? My relationships with the people that I love, good. My giving back, yeah, success, right? Like, and that pours over into everything else that I do because then I show up, right? A better employee, a better business owner, better all of these things because I am not so tunnel visioned with it being only one way. And I just show more tolerance and patience and like love and understanding for the people in my life and like meeting them where they're at. And it's okay to think differently. And you know, this isn't rejection. And like, there's so much stuff that I work on outside of this, like abandonment issues and, low self-worth, all the things we go through, right? And the stronger that I get in myself and the more that I realize that like it's what I think of me, what God thinks of me that ultimately
Yeah.
matters at the end of the day. It's not what the outside things are. And that just makes me a better person, more of a woman with grace. And that's what I strive to be, you know. Sure, I have my offside jokes and like, you know, things like that. That's just part of the personality, my personality, but I want to be calm and steady. And that's
Beautiful.
not like my nature. So
Yeah.
it's like I'm working because it's like erratic, right? And like great highs and devastating lows and like, you know, not living like that anymore is just really refreshing. Like I even find like a routine to be nice. And I never thought that I would say that because I thought that people that had routines or planned their whole life were like so boring and cookie cutter and like type A, like live a little, you know? But
Sure.
it was like reckless and um chaotic the way I was living. And I don't have to live that today. And that's pretty cool.
My emotional sobriety depends on the regularity of my program.
Emotional
Absolutely.
sobriety, that's always top of mind for me.
When
Like
when I
acknowledging
when
my
I get
feelings, but
off
not
my
making it my
program,
reality.
when I'm not regular with my program, I feel it tip to toe, man. Like just like whoa, I'm like this is like I'm going sideways real quick. Okay, BW, you got a question?
I do. So I don't know how to say it. It's a question about like understanding our limitations while in the process of working with another person. So, kind of like their autonomy, their relationship with the higher power, their program. But like, what have your experiences been, and like, what are some of the lessons you've learned while working with others when it comes to like understanding your limitations, especially when we're talking about the nature of the beast that we're attempting to participate in recovery process. That make sense?
Yes, and I know Shannon's going to have a great answer to this. Just from my previous conversations with it, we're talking about sponsorship now, right?
Yeah.
Mostly, like that's the nature of that beast of what your question is.
Yeah.
So, man, for myself out there, first of all, it's you have to release the responsibility for their sobriety. Like first and foremost, you can do your very best and somebody can be relapsing right in front of you and it could be breaking your heart, but you can't take that on as your failure because man, you'll just live a heartbroken life inside this program. Like everybody is an adult who is responsible for themselves, and as a sponsor, we're there to facilitate the knowledge of this program and the steps. We're not Michelangelo making the David out of a rock. Like we're supposed to, we're like, I see it as like, we're kind of like a ladder, like somebody who's like wanting to climb up out of something and they get to kind of climb on us because we know where to lean and what the next level is, but then it's not, I think so many times, and Shannon said it on this podcast, like we're not counselors, we're not financial advisors, we're like, there's so many things that I think a lot of sponsees mistaken as part of the role that's really got nothing to do. Like, it's okay to be a friend to your sponsee. Like I don't think that, I don't think that I could work with someone after a long time and not become friends with them. Like, that's just my nature is to form a relationship with people I interact with. But I think that it's, one of the things is recognizing that all we can do is share where we're at. I absolutely fundamentally say all the time to my sponsees, this is something that I'm still struggling on. This is, I'm showing you what I see as, a partial solution that I've learned, but it's definitely probably not the perfect thing, you know?
Sure.
And I quickly assess my limitations and state them to them because I feel much like music, like I could play a few songs, but I still feel like an infant in music compared to some people, and I think I'll feel like an infant in the program my whole life if I truly remain a seeker in this journey. And I'm gonna leave it there. But by the way, I love you both. Okay, send it.
Love you
Yeah.
both too. That's awesome. Oh, so much, right? That was great. Then first and foremost, I don't play God.
Yeah.
And I've sponsored a lot over the years. So for those of you that are just joining in on this one, I was in, I had 7 years in the program, just shy of 7 years before I went back out. So when I say I've sponsored a lot, even though I've only been back now since October of 2024, I have sponsored a lot.
2023. It's okay.
Oh my
I'm right.
gosh.
I'm right. I love you.
Wow.
I just
Yeah.
gave you a
Look
free
that
year.
up.
Year.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't just fall in a couple months ago. It was 2020. Ah, potato, potato, right?
I hate
Right.
playing God.
Yeah, I've learned so many valuable lessons over the years sponsoring. The biggest ones is that all I can do is what I can do. You know what I mean? Anything outside of that, that is in the hands of the person I'm working with and in the hands of God. So, yes, if somebody's struggling in their program, that's not a reflection of me, right? If I'm showing up and I'm doing the best that I can by trying to take them through the literature and take them through the steps, if they're not committed, they're not committed, right? And I like to find that out sooner than later, ideally, right? Because you don't want to be working with somebody who really has no desire. If they don't have the desire, we can't work together, point blank, period. But if, they need to go back out because that's what their path looks like. And I'm sitting here trying to force something down somebody's throat that's just not going to stick, right? I'm doing a disservice. I can turn that energy over to somebody who does want to do the work, right? And maybe they need to do a little bit more research and then before they come back in. Okay. That could be that. But in terms of like where you kind of know, I know to like draw the line and everything too, is that there's going to be women that come up to me after meetings and say, I loved your share. I'm looking for a sponsor. Can I get your number? And in the beginning, I would be like, yes, 3 women are calling me tomorrow, being started with the steps. Don't know what anybody's talking about of how it's challenging to find sponsees. Can't wait to get going.
Yeah. Yeah.
No ringing. It's gonna happen, right? And that's okay. Like
Yeah.
they might be gung ho that night, but scared the next day, and that's okay. So I'll just answer the calls as they come in, right? It just means somebody else is going to come in my path. Also, I don't need to have the answer for everything. If there's something that's very deep trauma based that they need some help outside of the 12-step program, I will be supportive of that. Please go do that. You know what I mean? Like we're not going to fix everything. I get that, right? Does doing the steps help through a lot of mental health and struggles around addiction and everything? Absolutely. But sometimes people need other help outside of that, and that's okay too. And I can be supportive of that, right? It's like I'm not a counselor that's going to sit there and break things down in that sense. I can only share on my experience and how I've gotten through that stuff. So it's really letting people be human, doing what I need to do. I established in the beginning the role of a sponsor, my role as a sponsor. They understand that. My sponsor said to me, I'm not your friend when I start sponsoring you. I'm here to take you through the book, here to take you through the steps. If down the road that develops into a friendship and we will see how that goes, then that's what will happen. But it's not going to happen with everyone.
Sure.
And I made that mistake before. I became too good of friends with some too more of a friend than a sponsor. And then it's hard to deliver the tough truths, right? It's hard to hold people accountable sometimes when you have a soft spot for them. And I know that in myself. Sometimes I'm too gentle on women, because I feel for them.
Yeah.
But it's like that old saying, you baby an addict, you'll bury an addict, right? So it's like there's a fine line sometimes. So I try to just really keep it to when we do our appointments, I will take you through the step in the literature we're working on at that point. If things come up throughout the week, yes, you can reach out to me. But before you're doing that, have you prayed? Have you done this? Have you done that? Right? Because if you're going to call me and tell me something, but all you haven't done anything like pray or identify what the issue is, and this is just to yak my ear off for an hour, that's not solving anything, right? And that's not my role. So I do have different boundaries, and people can agree or disagree with me, but it's because I've fallen into these traps before, right? Like I don't have the time to sit on the phone for hours with sponsees in a week and to talk about things. I want them to build relationships in the program, other females that I'll introduce them to that can be strong sounding boards. I can be there, I can listen, I can guide you to the best of my ability, but I'm not there to fix things. We're not here to fix people's lives. We're there to carry the message.
I love that. I knew you were going to have a great answer for that.
And it's different for everyone, right? But like I've just learned the hard way over the years too, you know? And
well, that's very valuable. Yeah.
you know, like I want you to do the work, but I also have to be doing the work myself. That's another thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have a sponsor. I have things I need to do each day to stay living in the solution. And yeah, when we're carrying the message and everything like that, it's great to be able to do that. But if somebody falls off, well, I pray for them so they come back.
Yeah.
Boom. BW, you got an answer to your question? That was wonderful, Shannon. I knew it was going to be wonderful.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Everybody might not agree, but it's just what's worked for me at this point.
I think that's very reasonable, and it comes from experience. Thank you. Yes, I was so excited about the fact that there was a solution that it made me kind of sad at the beginning when people didn't find the solution or partially found it, or like it was pretty interesting. I'd say 50% of the time, after potentially months, people just like never show up again, never call you again, and you're just like, well, like I really hope that person's okay. And it took me. Anytime I invest in anything, I feel a little bit disheartened when I don't see a result. I knew that I should never be like, it wasn't about me. I understood that really quickly. I also understood that it's not personal fairly quickly, but it still had a bit of an impact when there seemed to be progress and investment in the process and then just like vanish. You know, I definitely had a few moments where I was like kind of troubled by that, but just that simple thing, like that limitation on the world around you, the impact that can be made. I think it always comes back to that, just that simple fact of understanding that there is a higher power, there is a process unfolding in each individual's life. The results are not always the best, or the success and or solution found. A lot of people don't find this solution. It's really factual. Like
Less than 2%.
So when we get honest about like the current necessities to live in well-being compared to how we were interacting with life before, it's real. It's like I think Jen said at the very beginning, like all encompassing. It has its talons in like all of our faculties. Like it's mental, it's physical, it's social, it's familial, it's how we identify with ourselves, how we want the world to think we are. Like it's very complicated to walk out of this. So to understand, like, you know, again, like try your best and say yes if you can. And I think it's really, really cool when you actually are going through the book or whatever it looks like, and you're like, oh yeah, like this is that stuff. You know, I sometimes get fired up. I've had people be like, you're really excited about this, you know? And I'm like, I do. I get like fired up about it, you know? And I don't know, if it works, it works, and bless that situation if it does. But I've also, as I mentioned before, had like vanishing acts, no no sense of appreciation. This makes me seem like a little petty, but like not even a thank you, you know, not even a thank you. 6 months of my life, you know.
Now
And
that though, that's self-will and service, like the issue right
agreed,
there.
agreed. And that's why I said it, knowing that needs fine tuning. But that's an honest fact, you know. Like
Oh
a
yeah,
couple times where I was like, not even a thank you,
a
you
silent
know.
sponsee
But
is a dangerous sponsee.
we know that, it's being unselfish, right? Like it's
Of course,
selfless and sponsorship, but you're like, it's just good manners to at least say
that's what I
thank
mean.
you.
Bye
Yeah,
bye.
yeah.
That's what they say. They don't even say bye bye.
I know.
Go by.
Yeah. I've had ones that wouldn't reply for like 2 months, and then I'll get the message, "Hey, bro, how come you haven't called me in a while?" And I'm like, "I don't know about the 10 messages you didn't respond to. I kind of atrophied, you know."
That's a
You're like,
powerful.
what do you
It's a
mean how
message.
I haven't called you in a while?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
my sponsee. You're supposed to be calling me. Oh,
Good
one
way to
thing
be, man.
I want to say quickly too about this is if a sponsee comes to me and wants to work with someone else.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it tells me if my true goal and true desire is just to be of help, that shouldn't affect me, right? And it doesn't now. And because a lot of times I may even say, I'm not a good fit for you, right?
Sure.
I think maybe you'd be better off working with someone else. That doesn't happen often, but it will on the one off. And that's fine. Please, if you're going to continue doing the steps and you want to work with somebody else, by all means, because I want to see you win, I want to see you recover. And it's not personal.
No.
Sometimes they're also shopping sponsors thinking this one's going to work a little easier on me.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, if you want to go to one of my girlfriends in this program, think it's going to be any different, have at her, But honestly, I get it because sometimes it's just not a right fit. And that's okay. And that has
That's
to
true.
be a test of our ego too, right?
Most likely. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm
Hold
almost
on.
out of time here, but
Oh, we are. Okay.
I want to do a 2-minute response lightning round with my last question.
Hey, B, did you want to say something?
Yeah.
No. Are we getting to the
Yeah, I'm going to ask one question, and I got a timer
Okay.
on, and MT's going to get 2 minutes to answer it. Then Icy Storm will get 2 minutes to answer it. Then I'll get 2 minutes. We call it the
Who's
lightning round.
who's MT?
Mother
Yeah, I
Teresa,
was wondering that.
you're
Oh,
MT.
yeah, I
Somehow
was
your
wondering
name
that too.
changed when you made that statement earlier. I don't know. If I'm practicing
That's
honesty, I did it.
that's wild.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so I'm going to read the question, then I'll start the timer. As we made spiritual progress, we saw through these fallacies. It became clear that if we ever were to feel emotionally secure among grown up people, we would have to put our lives on a give and take basis, that we would have to develop the sense of being in partnership or brotherhood with all those around us. How has living a principled life brought this sort of partnership into your life, MT? Go.
Um, I find myself easy to relate to a lot of people, right? Because I'm very open-minded. I was before, but now it's a lot more like understanding where you're coming from. It's not a comparison that we have to think the same, right? It's just showing appreciation and respect for other people's opinions and the way that they live, and also, respect and appreciation for mine. I think too, like when you meet people, especially in these rooms, right? We have the disease in common, but maybe we look at a lot of non-similarities rather than the similarities, and the judgment comes up. So I try really hard to remove the judgment when that stuff comes up, especially when I'm listening in meetings. I'm like, it's like, okay, what can I learn from this? And what is it challenging in me to have to look at too? So yeah, I just feel like I really can just relate to other people now. I'm much more gentle, more welcoming, more open. And when something rubs me the wrong way, I know it's work I need to do on myself.
mm,
Love that. Boy, look at you. You did it in a minute and six
wait a
seconds.
minute.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You want me to drop the clock down to 1 minute? I see. You think you could do it
I
in a
want
minute?
2 minutes.
He wants 2 minutes. There we go. Okay. So as we made spiritual progress, we saw through these fallacies. It became clear that if we ever were to feel emotionally secure among grown-up people, we would have to put our lives on a give and take basis. We would have to develop the sense of being in partnership or brotherhood with all those around us. How has living a principled life brought this sort of partnership into your life, Mr. Storm?
So bad. Okay, so I think the coolest thing that happened to me was when I started forgiving myself and I recognized that the ingredients necessary to bring me to a place where I was open-minded and willing to do to actually accept the facts of my life and take responsibility for it, but also have compassion for myself. I never planned on being an alcoholic. Like it really did happen in a very interesting way throughout my growth and becoming whoever I became. And the reason I share that is because I try now, having recognized that all the things that I considered bad were actually very necessary parts to the coming to that point. So that they say the past becomes an asset. I now recognize that those things that were like very unattractive facts of my life were part of what got me to a place where I could finally be grateful again. If I can be grateful, I can say that those things no longer like I this is going to sound a little bit whatever, but there's divinity in the negativity. They all have their place, so they're not as ugly. It's almost like, ugh, like grateful that I made it through that. Another really important thing was the appreciation that worse things didn't happen. And then to tie it all up with 27 seconds is I now need to grant that exact same opportunity to all the people I care about and love and maybe bump into on the street. Maybe what I perceive as bad for them is actually part of the divinity of what their negativity can be, to bring them to a place where maybe they also want to work on a few spiritual principles.
Boom. I love that. That was great. Okay, I'm going to read the question again just because I'm the absent-minded addict. As we made spiritual progress, we saw through these fallacies. It became clear that if we ever were to feel emotionally secure among grown-up people, we would have to put our lives on a give-and-take basis. We would have to develop the sense of being in partnership or brotherhood with all those around us. How has living a principled life brought this sort of partnership into my life? Boom. Okay, so for myself, I was really self-centered without knowing I was self-centered. And so there was really this false brotherhood. It was like, it was a brotherhood as long as you did what I wanted you to do. And so, living a principled life has really, one of the things that I'm so grateful for the step work for was giving me the tools to actually see where I was really not giving people the chance and like falsely like resenting them for problems inside myself. So, like there can be no brotherhood if I think I'm the boss. It's not a brotherhood, it's not an equality, and so now I'm really just trying to have greater acceptance for people around. Like that surrender is also surrendering my control over you. And it's something that I'm working really hard at these days. And I want to just freely see your opinion as valuable as mine. And it's not always easy when you're in really, close family relationships and that where roles have been built up for your whole life. So, right now, just by, one of the biggest principles that I'm trying to pull into my program these days is perseverance. It's something that I need to just keep persevering, even when I'm not necessarily seeing the results that I want to see. And so, yeah. So also too, though, I want to pull the principled life into I love both of you at the end of mine. Boom, just got it in there again. Okay. So, Shannon, do you have something you want to say here at the end before we sign off?
This was awesome. I just enjoyed every minute of this with both of you. I have such tremendous respect for you both and love in my heart for you both. Like, you've just been really impactful in my life. Especially you when I was at Options, always just like such a warm, friendly face, and like just you're very easy to talk to. So thank you for creating such safety for me in a vulnerable time. And well, Milan, we're homies for life. So.
Woo woo. That's right. Spiritual sister.
And I just looked up the word divinity, and I'll be adding it into my vocab
Oh yeah.
from now on. So thank you for teaching me a new word,
There we go.
I just love how you speak, and I'm so grateful. Like, I need this morning to feel that charge again of this, like, I'm doing what I need to be doing, and I'm with the right people.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Milan,
Storm.
for putting this together for us.
I knew it was going to be good. I sometimes.
It's really good. What I would say is I feel I had the same moment of gratitude for where I'm at. To see you again, I've created a friendship with Milan, and it's been like very interesting. Like this last few months has been incredibly powerful.
Awesome.
Yeah, and like having an opportunity to share some of the experiences through this process, to like actually say them and then feel them again, because this provokes reflection, and then also like reminding you, right? Like, whoa, like it really has been an interesting time, and these are things that we didn't experience this stuff before. That's why we're excited about it, because it's a different way of living. And yeah, to see you healthy and for you to be doing as well as you are is something that easily kind of like rejuvenates it reminds me of what's actually going. Sometimes we forget, like some of the little parts of our life where we've been a part of other lives, and to be here with you too is a very special moment. Yeah.
I love you, brother. And I love you, sister. And I am super grateful that you both were willing to do this today, because it really, like, I'm not going to say I told you so, but I told you so. And everybody out there, tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye-bye, everybody. I love you excessively.
Please help us help others. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.